This is Whisper from History, where forgotten voices rise again. This is the story of a town where an underground fire erased an entire community. The tale of Centralia, where the flames consumed everything. Come with us and uncover the full story. The night was still, heavy with the scent of coal smoke that had clung to the hills for generations. Families in the small Pennsylvania town had gone to bed, as they always did. The glow of street lamps falling across quiet porches, the hum of insects carrying into the darkness. Children dreamt of summer mornings spent playing in fields where their fathers and grandfathers had once dug for coal. No one could have known that by dawn, the life of their town would never be the same again. Centralia, a place built on the promise of coal, would become a name erased from maps, a ghost whispered only in shadows. The story begins in the mid-19th century, when coal was more valuable than oil is today. Deep beneath Pennsylvania lay a fortune-thick seams of anthracite coal, hard and clean burning, the fuel that powered America's factories, its trains, and its homes. Immigrants from Ireland, Poland, and Italy arrived with calloused hands and empty pockets, chasing a dream carved from black rock. They built houses on the hillside, rows of wooden structures painted white, with churches standing proudly at the heart of town. For decades, Centralia thrived, its population swelling as men descended daily into the mines, lamps strapped to their heads, lungs filling with dust. It was hard work, dangerous work, but it gave them purpose. Children grew up believing that coal was both curse and blessing, hardship, but survival. By the 1960s, the veins beneath Centralia had thinned. The town shrank, its population dropping from thousands to barely over 1,000. Still, those who remained clung to their identity. They had survived strikes, depressions, and deadly mine collapses. The coal was part of their bloodline, and the land was more than soil, it was memory. They never could have imagined that a decision made in 1962, seemingly small, would ignite the end. It began with garbage. Every town had its dump, and Centralia's was no different. In May of that year, officials authorized the burning of trash at the local landfill. It was routine, something that had been done countless times. But this time, no one realized that beneath the layers of refuse lay an exposed seam of anthracite coal. When flames touched it, the coal ignited, glowing deep underground, where no water could reach. What started as a controlled fire became a creeping inferno. The earth itself had caught flame. At first, there was little concern. Fires in coal country were not uncommon. People assumed it would burn itself out, that the town could continue on as always. But weeks passed, then months, and smoke still drifted from cracks in the earth. The fire moved quietly, spreading beneath homes, beneath streets, beneath the very foundations of daily life. Children playing baseball on summer afternoons noticed wisps of smoke rising from the outfield. Families smelled sulfur seeping through their basements. The fire had no sound, no visible walls of flame. It was invisible, silent, and merciless. The government tried to act. They poured water and clay into the burning mines. They dug trenches to cut the fire off. But anthracite coal burns hot, hotter than wood, and underground it can smolder for decades, even centuries. Every attempt failed. By the 1970s, the fire was advancing steadily beneath Centralia. Streets buckled, yards split open, and sinkholes appeared without warning. The once stable land betrayed its people, turning into a treacherous, living trap. In 1981, a boy named Todd Dombowski was playing in his grandmother's backyard when the earth gave way beneath his feet. A sinkhole opened, spewing hot steam and toxic gas. Todd clung desperately to tree roots as he dangled above a pit that burned with the fury of hell itself. He was pulled to safety, shaken but alive. For the people of Centralia, this was no longer an invisible threat. It was a monster that could kill without warning. Fear seeped into every household. Parents told children not to wander too far. Families began locking their doors, not against crime, but against the land itself. Scientists studied the fire and declared it unstoppable. The carbon monoxide levels were rising. The air was becoming poisonous. Centralia, they warned, could no longer be considered safe. The residents faced an impossible choice: abandon their homes and history, or stay and risk death. Some resisted fiercely. Their grandparents had built these houses. The cemeteries where their ancestors lay were here. How could they walk away from lives carved into the very hills? Others saw no choice but to leave, packing memories into boxes, watching moving trucks pull away, knowing they would never return. In 1984, Congress approved millions of dollars to relocate the townspeople. Families were offered buyouts. One by one, neighbors moved away. Schools closed, businesses shuttered, and houses stood empty, their windows dark. Streets that had once been filled with laughter fell silent, broken only by the hiss of smoke rising from cracks in the asphalt. A place that had survived a century of hardship was undone by a fire no one could extinguish. By the 1990s, Centralia was nearly gone. A handful of stubborn residents remained, fighting legal battles to stay in the only homes they had ever known. They defied eviction orders, clinging to the belief that the fire might one day burn out, that the town could be saved. But the state took drastic measures. Buildings were demolished to prevent squatters. Addresses were erased from postal maps. Road signs were removed. Centralia was scrubbed from existence as if it had never been. It became, in the eyes of the law, a place that did not exist. Today, only a few houses remain, scattered like ghosts across a barren landscape. The church still stands, defiantly holding services each week, as if to remind the world that faith outlives flame. The cemetery is quiet, the stones weathered, while beneath them the earth continues to burn. Scientists estimate the fire could last for another 200 years, maybe more. The heat radiates through the soil, the smoke twisting upward in the cold Pennsylvania air, a reminder of the cost of human oversight. But Centralia is not entirely forgotten. Visitors come, drawn by curiosity and the eerie power of a place consumed by fire. They walk along Graffiti Highway, the abandoned stretch of Route 61 covered in bright paint and messages left by strangers. They photograph the steam vents, the cracks in the earth, the strange silence that hangs over the ruins of a once thriving town. To them, Centralia is a cautionary tale, a glimpse of a community swallowed whole by forces beyond its control. For those who once lived there, the story is not about ruins or legends, it is about home. They remember the church picnics, the high school football games, the sound of bells on Christmas Eve. They remember their fathers coming home from the mines, covered in cold dust, smiling despite the danger. They remember neighbors who were more like family, houses that stood shoulder to shoulder, lives bound together by work and faith. And they remember the day when smoke rose from the earth and everything they knew was stolen. Not by war or flood or famine, but by a fire no one could put out. Centralia was not erased overnight in a single dramatic moment. It faded slowly, painfully, piece by piece, until only shadows remained. Yet in another way, it was erased overnight from the maps, from the records, from the story of American towns that endure. What remains is memory, carried by those who lived it, whispered by those who visit, and marked by the fire that still smolders beneath the ground, long after the last family left. This was the story of the fire that did not destroy a town in a single day, but slowly consumed it over time. Even today, smoke still rises there, but only memories remain. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe and become part of our Dark Series playlist. This video is narrated by an AI voice. Script and editing done by human.